Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial about implementing domain-driven design within your Flutter applications. We are now at the point where we are going to compose our application together. That is, tie everything together with all its dependencies and all that we have been doing thus far to complete the application. So in this video, I'll be creating the composition root. And if you have never heard the term composition root before, composition root is just a singular point in the application where all the object graphs are created and all the dependencies are handled. I will also be using pure DI instead of a DI container. So let us begin. And first, for our home page, I want to create a home page delegate, an abstract class that represents a home page delegate, which will handle the creation of the dependencies for when I transition from the home page to the add book page. And you will see how that works in a moment. So I'm going to create a future and I'm going to say on add book. And for this method, I'm going to pass in the context and also the shelf ID of the current shelf on which we are going to add a new book. So this is our abstract class that we will implement in our composition root. But this class must be passed to the home page as the delegate. So I'm going to say final home page delegate. And then inside the construct, I'm going to say home page. Then I'm just going to leave it as it is for now, but normally it should be required. So now we have our home page delegate, which we will implement the add book, this add book method in our composition root. In most applications, the composition root is oftentimes the main method. So you can create a single class, which I'll be doing, or multiple classes for that matter, that will handle the dependencies and then will be executed from the main method on application startup. So here on the root, I'm going to create molib UI composer. So I'm going to use this static class to compose all my objects. So inside here, I'm going to create my home page delegate, and I'm going to call it home page coordinator. And this will implement the home page delegate. So this will implement the home page delegate and the add book method. So I'm just going to leave it unimplemented for now. Import our context from material. And now I'm just going to go ahead and create my composer. UI composer. And here is where all my dependencies and the object graph will be constructed. So I'm going to create static variables for all my dependencies. So for my entity factory, I'm gonna create for my book repository, and for now I'm going to use the fake repository. So I'm going to use a fake book repository for now, since our database factory is not yet constructed. We're going to set up our bookshelf repository, call it shelf repository, and I'm going to use the fake shelf repository for now. So now I'm going to create a static method which will compose our home page and return the widget. So I'm going to call it compose home page. And what this does, it will set up all the dependencies for the home page. So we want our home page coordinator. I'm just going to call it coordinator. Home page coordinator. We want all our use cases. So we want our get all book use case, get all book use case, and for this we're gonna pass in the different repositories. So book repository, and I'm going to say get that static instance of the book repository. I am going to also create shelf use case, and I'm going to pass in the shelf repository and also the entity factory. So the same thing, molib UI composer shelf repository, and then entity factory. So we set up our use cases and their dependencies. Now we set up the home page view model. So the home page view model, and we pass in our use cases. So create shelf use case, and also our get all books use case. So there we have our view model, and now we can construct our home page and return the widget. So since we're using block, we'll construct a block provider, and we'll say we'll use our home page block. We'll import that. Our home page block, and we'll pass to this the view model, and then here for the child we'll return our home page, and for the delegate we'll pass in our coordinator. So let me check if block isn't a defined type. So the issue we are having here is that we have block here in our pubspec YAML file instead of Flutter block. So we'll just change that to Flutter block and save to download the correct dependency. So now the error is no longer there. Now we have access to the block provider library. So inside of our main, so instead of saying homepage, we're gonna say mobile or molib composer, and we're gonna say compose homepage, and that should return our homepage. So now we can go to our homepage and set up our block so that we'll fetch the information from the fake repository. So we're going to create this method build UI. So I'm going to say widget build UI, and here we're going to return a block builder. So we're going to return a block builder with type home block or home page block, and our home page state. And for our builder, we're gonna say our context and also the state. And I'm gonna say if the state then I'm going to return a loader in the center. So I'm going to say center, and I'm going to return a circular progress indicator. So that is if it is fetching. Else, I'm going to return the method that we created, build shelf UI, and I'm going to pass in the shelves from the state. So this is our block builder that check if we are fetching data, then we'll show a progress indicator. If not, we build out our shelves from the data returned within the state. So here, instead of build shelves UI, I'm going to use build UI. So if I should load this again and see if it would fetch the information from our fake repository. So no data is coming back as yet. So first, let us fix some things. We need to remove this. So we have only our list of shelves. And we also need to go to our build shelves, and we need to set shelves, this shelves equal to shelves. But I'm going to make this private. Let's try and reload again. Repository. But the issue is that we are not executing any event on the block. when the application is loaded. So I'm going to go state. I'm going to use, so I say provider context. So I want it to be home page, provide a home page block, and I'm going to execute the get books on shelves event. So now if I should run it, then I'm expecting the data. There we go. So now we have all the shelves coming from the So now we are going to set up our dependencies. So we're going to set up our add book use case. So add book use case equal or add book use case, and I'm going to pass in the shelf repository. So only composer UI composer shelf repository, and so changes to bookshelf. Also book repository, only composer, book repository, and or entity factory. So entity factory, only composer, entity factory. So those are the dependencies for add book use case. Now we'll set up our view model, or add book view model. Add book view model, and I'm going to pass in the add book use case, and then I'm going to return also a block provider which will have a add book page block. In this block will accept the view model as its dependency. And for the child, I'm gonna say add book page, pass in the shelf ID. So the name is add book block. Right. So currently our add book page doesn't accept a shelf ID. So I will get that, and I'll say final shelf ID. And for add book page constructor, I'll just pass in the shelf ID. So now inside of our composer, everything should look good. So now in our home page, whenever we click the add book page button, then it should bring up our add book page. So let us try and see if that's working. So there we have our add book page. But now we need to also include the block on this page so that we can execute the add book event. So for add book page, I am going to create another field, shelf ID, and inside my init state, I am going to say shelf ID equal to shelf ID that is passed in. So now, here where I have my build UI, I'm going to set up my block consumer right here. So I'm going to say block consumer, and I want it to be for the add book block, and the event should be or the state rather, should be add book state. So I want for the builder, context state. So if state that is committing, then again show a loader. So I'm going to say center child circular indicator. Otherwise, here is where I'm going to return my build UI. And for my listener, I want also context and state. And I want to show some error if there is any error. So I'm going to say if state error message, if that is not empty, if it is not empty, then I want to show a snap bar with the error messages. So I'm going to say scaffold of context show snap bar. And here I'm going to create a snap bar. So snap bar content, just a text with the error messages. So state error message to string. So I'm going to show a snap bar with the error messages. And I'm also gonna check if the book is added. So if the book is added, if state book, if it is not equal null, meaning that it was added successfully, then I want to return to the home page. So navigator up, or instead of, I'm going to say off context up, and inside here I'm going to return the created book, the state book. So I return the created book to the home page. This is the book from the presentation layer. So if I should try and add a book now, let us see. Add book. If I should add it, well, I did not execute the event, so nothing will happen. So if we find our onPress method of our add button, then I'm just going to say onPress call a method add book. And I'm going to pass in the context. So now if I create this method add book, which accepts a build context, here I'm just gonna execute the add book event on the block. So block provider of context, and I'm going to say the add book block, and then the event is add book, and then I'll pass in all the necessary information to add the book. So the title should be the title. Same for author. So for all the fields, we'll pass it to the add book event. So now again, let us test to see if it is working. So add book, and I'm going to say add book. I'm expecting some errors. Title cannot be empty, that sort of thing. So let me try now. Say for the title, some book, author, blackjack. I need a valid ISBN, so I'm just going to copy and paste one. And for the date, let me say 2020-01-01. So add book. Title cannot be empty. So we're still getting these errors. So the issue is inside the add book view model, because we are not clearing the error messages from the array. So what we need to do is to say error messages. We always need to set it to an empty array before the execution of the method. So back to our add book page. If I say add book, and we are no longer getting any error, but nothing is happening. So there's an issue in the way that we configure block consumer. With our block consumer, we should set the block. So I'll get the block from the provider, block provider, and I'm going to say the add book block. So that's the block. So if I try again, paste in some ISBN, some book, author, Jack Black, 2020-01-01. Still having some issues. So the issue, guys, is that I was popping book here instead of bool. But inside my homepage delegate, inside the delegate, I have a future bool and not a future book. So that was the mistake. So here, I'm returning a book. It's really a boolean that I'm returning to determine if the book was created successfully. So back to our page. The type of the pop should be bool and not book, and I'm returning true if book is not null, meaning that the book was created. So if we try again, I'll paste in the ISBN and I'll just say some book with an author, Jack Black, and I say 2020-01-01. Then the book should be added. But no, I'm not returning a book. So what I'll do in the home page, I'll say if book, then what I'll do is say block provider of home page block, and I'll call the get on shelves or dispatch the event. So fetch the list of books again, and so the created book would now be a part of this list. So if I should add the book again, say some book author, say add book, then it should fetch the book and add it here. But let us check again why it is not being added to the shelf. Again guys, there's an issue in the view model where I am not clearing the shelves before I fetch the new ones. So it's adding the same set of data over and over again. So I'll clear the shelf that is in the home page view model. I'll clear the shelves before I call the get books on shelves. And so if I try add the book now, some book, well, now I have a issue again that needs to be fixed. So the issue we're having, guys, with the children not equal to null assertion is that I had the return statement inside this if block here instead of out here. So what happens is that whenever this if doesn't run, then it returns empty. And so it would throw that null exception when it's trying to render the grid. So again, now if I add a book, assertion error. What is this? Let me retry. So if we try to add a book again, say some book, and I say author, and there we have the book added here, and also an empty shelf is created where we can add more books to this shelf. So there we have it. We can now add our books to our shelves and also fetch our shelves from our fake repository. But now we want to create a database factory and to initialize our DB and use our DB instead of our fake repository. So we'll go back to our infrastructure and we go inside of our factories folder, and then we'll create a file called db factory, and I'll just copy and paste this code and explain, but you guys can get this code from GitHub. So here is the factory. Basically it creates a SQF-Lite database, molib.db, then open the database and then populate the DB if it is the first time that it is created by executing these queries to create the different tables. So you create the books table and also the shelf table. So we have the create books, and the create shelf. So for this one, it's not done properly, so I'll create table shelf, and we'll have one field which is the shelf ID, which is the primary key. So this is our database factory. So now, if we should compose this, so instead of using our fake repositories, we'll use the actual real repository with the SQLite data source. So I would say db equal to database factory So guys, to get the database working correctly, there are a few changes that must be done. For one, inside of our DB factory, with the create table, there was a comma here that was causing some problem with creating the table. That comma should be removed. And also the composer. I have modified the composer to include a configure method that accepts the DB. So because the database is created, it's an async method that creates the database. Therefore, it made sense to create it inside the main method and then pass it inside this configure method for composer. So if we should go inside our main method, then you will see here where I initialize the database and then configure my composer before I run the app. And it is important that we just Flutter binding ensure initialization. It's important that this is the first line, or else it's going to throw error when we try to initialize our database. And so now also there's an issue with our book model where the field publish date is or was set to publish date rather than publish date, which is the column name in the database. So that needs to be fixed also. And inside our publish date value object, we need to override the toString method to return the value of our date that is entered. So with all those changes, then everything should be working nicely. So now we have our composer working well. Everything is set up, all our dependencies. Now we can add a book easily to the database. So I create another book, call it book. And so now our books are added to the database and to our bookshelves. So that's it for this series. If you have watched all the videos, if you have followed along, thank you very much. And remember, the code for this video is also on GitHub. You can get it from there. And for the next series, we'll be looking at creating a full stack application in Flutter. So we'll be looking at creating our own backends, our databases, and our Flutter application. So stay tuned for that one. And thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.